Hey everyone, this is Southern Fried Chat again, here with Murad, the biggest voice in the SPX6900 community, a champion of the coin, makes a short every single day, an Aeon through and through, and just an awesome person to have on the podcast. I wanted to kind of dive right in. Are you surprised by the number of initiatives that have just been independently started by different Aeons? Is that surprising to you?
It doesn't. And the reason for that is when I first was discovering SPX, understanding SPX, and kind of studying the original community, my whole thesis, and even if you ignore the metrics, even if you ignore the diamond handedness, even if you ignore that SPX is like number one on all these things from like a logical and a more sort of an autistic perspective. Um, the thing that I realized is the only coin with and I think this is the number one driver of my thesis and my belief is the number one coin with a goal, with a mission, and with this like a spiritual sense of inspiration, right? And given how ambitious and grand the goal is, almost to the point of delusional in the minds of some people, that lends itself to so much what I call average inspiration per capita. That my thesis was essentially this level of spiritual intensity is eventually going to lead to people contributing a lot more on average than they would be in some random tech coin or in a dog coin, etc. Right? And like this movementness, this missionness aspect is why I immediately was like, okay, there's gonna be something huge here, right?
Yeah.
So it does surprise me. In fact, I expect more and more of that to happen in the coming months.
Yeah, it's crazy. I wanted to run through like a few of them just to see how aware you are of some of these. Have you seen the Miro Cognosphere project by Chiron? Have you checked that out
Yeah,
yet?
definitely, definitely. We've been DMing back and forth.
Okay.
We've been in a couple of Telegram chats together. So I was providing some early feedback on that. Um, really love when people do something like this, um, when they put their sort of mind and soul fully into something, in like this extremely intense OCD way. To me, that's like a subtle signal that this thing is going to keep growing. Because if we're already seeing dozens of people react in such a way, that means that it's likely that this thing is not only going to lead to growth, but future participants are also going to be contributing so heavily, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love that one in particular. It's intense amount of work. And I think he's or he or they or whatever are relatively new to SPX. I think so. It's like so cool to see that just pop up and so much work has gone into it. I was looking through it and I was like, this is insane. This is wild. And it was really cool. He had a good section on you. He even included my podcast on it, and just so much content to go through.
What I
Yeah,
love is a lot of eons. They're obviously asking themselves in the back of their minds. Um, Obviously, besides like the bull posting and the rating on Twitter and all of that, what can I do that maybe other people can't? That to push this forward, right? And everybody has their own talents. You know, some people are more extroverted, some people are more sort of meticulous. Other people have different things. Somebody might be a software engineer, another person like a 3D artist, etc. So everybody's like, how can I lend my own talents to this? And it is going to compound in the end.
yeah. Somebody had a great idea of doing a newsletter, like a weekly newsletter, like what happened today. I think that's a great idea. So I hope somebody does that. I think it's cool. Also, I was talking to someone about the idea of doing like a longer form video, like a week in SPX or something like that, where you just go through all the cool tweets and that sort of thing. I thought that'd be kind of cool too. And, have you heard of the Flip the Stock Market website by Tony?
I've seen it, yes.
Yeah, that one's people love that one. The partnership with Pierre, the windsurf champion, that Crypto Cow has been champion. Yep.
T Dog,
T
yes,
Dog,
yes.
yes, T Dog.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
That's
this is
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I had him on. That's amazing. I know you're familiar with the Flip the Stock Market podcast. Are you familiar with Seb, who goes in London? I think you've used him in his videos. He's like always. He's got the signs with his sister showing off SPX in London. Uh,
Yeah, those are amazing. I'm a big fan of that.
yep, yep. Mike, who does a live show, Mike Flip the Stock. Everybody knows him on TikTok, and he's done like aeon6900.com and just insane amounts of work. I know you're familiar with him as well. I just kind of want to run through him a little bit. SPX Mosaic by Aeon Reborn. I'm sure you've seen that, right? Yeah, he's done amazing work too. He's also redone some of your stats and metrics, which is really cool. TheGirlIsCute.com. I don't know if you've seen this. Was relatively new. It's like this old Windows 95 type looking message board, and as a tweet comes out about SPX, anything related to it, it like shows it sort of like it just feeds in like live as it comes out. So if you tweet it right now, you'd see it on the website pop in. It's so fucking cool. That was really cool. Nick yelling SPX6900 in bars and making tons of TikToks. You're familiar with yep. And so on and so on. I just wanted to run through some of these and see how familiar and kept up you are, because I think I also wanted to highlight some of them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Twitter like 15 hours a day, so I've seen all of those.
Well, I think some people don't. I don't think so. I think some people don't get that you are like familiar with this even the tiniest of work involved, and I just wanted to make sure people know that. What are some of your favorites that you have?
I really like the Tan's Cho podcast that he's been doing with the guys. I am really a big fan of your work. I'm also I like all of these. There's like 6 or 7 websites with a bunch of different resources. Those have been amazing. Arcane Vault with his extremely high quality videos. These are some of my favorites, just that come top of mind. But all of the free cut labor is appreciated. And I have to mention Spacey. She does a lot of things that like aren't visible to the eye, but you have no idea how much work she puts into this, and how much it moves the needle behind the scenes.
Like exchange listings and that sort of thing.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
Cool. There's a lot of things.
Cool. Yeah, I know that she's super involved. Yeah, but a lot of it is behind the scenes. So that's awesome to give her a shout out. What do you? I had a question about, and I've spoken to Aeon Reborn about this. As SPX6900 as a corporate treasury asset, he has equity in a company that's been doing that, has put that on their balance sheet. What do you think of that idea?
I think you are going to be seeing more of that. I think the Treasury narrative across crypto, it's like a top 3 narrative this cycle. Meme coins are another top 3 narrative this cycle, obviously. And I think it's quite natural to combine the two. So I think in September, October, there'll likely be more news along these lines, market wide. So, SPX 6900 people, just like Bitcoin maximalists back in the day, they're going to be, quote unquote, as we jokingly say, like infiltrating like other companies, other businesses. They're going to be business owners themselves, middle management and institutions, etc. So I think, the top tier, absolute best meme coins are probably going to be participating in these various sort of TradFi structures as well, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I've heard mixed opinions on it, because it's kind of like, well, we don't want corporations involved and that sort of thing, and I get that as well. But I think it is it's really cool to see. And along those lines, if you were to pitch it to a company specifically as a treasury asset, how would you do that?
Oh, that's a great question. So first of all, you would need to describe why SPX. Second of all, I mean, you could even, I mean, depending on the corporate board's familiarity with crypto, you might start off with crypto, why BTC, etc. But this specific case, you would have to say why SPX, then you would have to say like why crypto treasuries, then you'd have to say like why SPX treasuries, right? And there's a lot of sort of multiplicative effects here, right? So first of all, I mean, I don't need to give the pitch to you specifically, but and I'm sure you know these things better than me, but SPX, in my opinion, is number one on like 30 metrics that measure, meme coin power, meme coin purity, decentralization, distribution, diamond-handedness, loyalty, mean investment, median investment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So from a left brain side of things, it's like number one or number two on every single metric, right? That's first of all. Second of all, if you've studied past crypto cycles, momentum and thematics are very important, right? So like I've already alluded to, meme coins have been number one, arguably the number one topic of this whole cycle. I've long stated, and we're already seeing evidence of this, SPX is evolving into something bigger. It first evolved, into a cult, but now I think it's evolving even more into a movement. It's becoming something much, much bigger. I think, frankly, SPX is doing to GME what BTC did to gold, essentially improving on every single aspect. It's like trying to build a 10x better product. Second of all, SPX is the only coin with a mission, the only coin with a goal, the first ever movement coin. The fact that you're seeing the highest median investment for every new person and the highest mean investment for every new person is essentially mathematical proof of the highest average emotional resonation, right? People are essentially voting with their money. And when it comes to SPX, they're voting in the most intense way, right? Second of all, it's the only coin, similarly to BTC and SPX 500 itself, is the only coin this cycle that has developed this DCA culture. And if you study not just crypto, but finance overall, the assets that develop a very strong DCA habit among their holder base ultimately end up becoming the biggest, right? Furthermore, if you've studied past crypto cycles, momentum is very important. The things that have done well in 2016 ended up going ballistic in 2017. The things that ended up doing well in 2020 ended up going even crazier in 2021. And I think we're going to see the same thing happen this cycle. Why do I mention this? Because SPX was the number one meme coin performer in the top 100 in 2024. It was the number three performer among all coins in the top 100 in 2024. It is currently the number two performer 2025 to date. And, it's in that perfect sweet spot where, traditional finance institutions, when they start dabbling in crypto, they typically want an asset to be above 1 billion. We are at like 1.3, 1.4 billion right now, which is like the perfect sweet spot between passing that threshold, but also having like maximum upside. And the very fact that we have the most ambitious goal and the most, which essentially translates to highest internal community targets, this means that the community is not going to give up until like tens of trillions, right? And this is what makes it like the most lucrative asset. If you combine that with the very power of treasuries and the things that you can do on the stock market side, it's like going to be like the most aggressive, potent, and reflexive loop as an asset to potentially be added to a treasury.
Yep. Do you think that could actually happen? Like some company announces SPX as a treasury. Like I know there's been, the Bitcoin ones were first, and then ETH has recently memed pretty hard with their treasuries. Do you think there would be? Do you think that there could be a company that says we're going to add SPX as a treasury, and that's what we're going to focus on, like a public company? Do you think I see? You wouldn't be surprised, yeah. That would be incredible if that did happen. It'd be cool to see because that is definitely. I do, however, see that the treasury company aspect, I think, will lead to, at least it seems like that's going to be a big catalyst for the bubble that's going to come, and then probably the collapse. I'm sure some companies are not going to handle that well. What do you think about that? Do you agree with that, or do you have other thoughts?
Crypto needs various bubble-like leveraged structures in order to grow, and I'll tell you why. In 2017, it was the ICOs. In 2021, you could argue it was like a combination of like DeFi stuff and lending. This time around, it's going to be the digital asset treasuries. Essentially, the way it works is people want crypto, but faster. People want spot assets, but more leveraged, right?
Right.
Essentially, they want to figure out a way where they can experience the crypto cycle, and especially like the last year of it, but like 1.6x of that, or like 2.5x of that, or whatever, right? And the reason for that is because A, a lot of people and institutions that may or may not have missed like the past 2 years or whatever, they want to quote unquote like catch up on lost time, but also they want like an aggressive version of what crypto is already is. And you know, you can argue it's unhealthy, but I actually believe that, it's the short term price movements, essentially parabolic movements, that get people into crypto.
Hmm.
Because whether it's the peak of 2017 or the peak of 2021, that's when most people get into crypto. Why? Because on the ground, in the real world or online, they're like, oh my God, Bitcoin is up 30% in a week. Oh my God, my cousin or my coworker or my friend, they paid off their mortgage using crypto, etc. And these stories, they like spread across reality, and that's how people join. And ultimately, people join because of these like short-term price gains,
Yep.
and then typically in the subsequent weeks or in the subsequent months or even in the subsequent bear market, people dig deeper. They realize it's not just about speculation. There's might be like a technological revolution here, and then they dig deeper and they realize there's actually a money and a financial revolution, etc., right? And so you need some kind of a leverage thing to cause the parabola. And yes, it may or may not go down 70, 80% after, but the point is that even after the 80% down, it's higher than where it started.
Right. Yeah.
And so essentially, like, you need to trigger the parabolas so that the parabolas are so big that even after the 80% of the parabola, it's still higher than when it started the cycle, right? And
Yeah.
essentially, this continues.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I've never been more confident that SPX will be a multi-cycle coin, and honestly, the confidence grows every day. Like, we may have that insane blow off top, and we may have that insane correction, but I have no doubts that it will continue. At this point, it's because everybody's so ingrained in it, and it's like a part of their identity at this point. I I don't see how that stops.
I mean, life would be boring without it, essentially, for a lot of people.
Yep.
And, crypto ultimately, regardless of whether something is a tech token or a mimetic token, it ultimately boils down to people not giving up and persisting forever. And even back in the day when I joined SPX, in my subjective opinion, I noticed that like the average quality of the people, they were like more long-termist and more patient, and in my opinion, like more visionary than an average crypto person. And that's what attracted me, essentially the community. And my bet is that SPX specifically is disproportionately attracting the people that are going to treat this as a marathon, not a sprint. And that's why I think that even in 2029, 2030, we're still going to be here making newer highs. That's my bet.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. No, I agree. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, so we've talked about early holders, a bit more maybe weird, autistic, whatever you want to say. But how do you think that's evolved from then? Sub 10 million, whenever you first got in, to now.
Yeah, so I mean, as with every asset, um, almost every new innovation in the world, in any industry, in any asset class, it starts off with the schizos. It starts off with the call them, I don't know, hipsters, schizos, autists, OCD people. Like, it starts off with a neurodivergent of some kind. It's precisely because the people are different that they invent something new. If you're like the normiest normie, by definition, you're not going to create something innovative. You need the brain chemistry in your head to be different from the masses in order to either notice or create or to come up with something different, right? And ultimately, as something something grows, there's going to be like more and more normal people joined. That being said, I still think that at this point in time, we're just so early still
Yeah.
that SPX, in particularly like the hyperactive people, it's going to attract um, people that are different. But I also think that those people are incredibly loyal. And like you said, because they make it their whole personality, they like the average contribution per person is so high. I mean, we're still only 200,000 people, of which call them 20,000 are like more active, right? And those
Yeah.
people, they're just so passionate about it that I think at this stage in time, we're still attracting like exactly the type of crowd we want because those people, like, they're not going to give up no matter what. And that's exactly the kind of people that you want to be owning the asset while it's still only like a couple of billion worth, you know?
Right.
And ultimately, in the long run, what this means is that the supply is going to disproportionately be in the hands of like true believers, which is going to lend itself to like Doge-like multi-cycle parabolas, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say there's still that I mean, mostly hardcore people, but I have noticed signs of just kind of normies, whatever you want to call it. I actually was on a spaces, somebody joined and said, I've never owned crypto before. I've never had an X account before. I've seen that already. And in my Instagram posting, I've had some people follow me that are just like, you could tell they'd never been into crypto before. So I've seen signs of that already, which is cool to see. But um, how
Yeah, and
long? Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's very bullish, by the way, because a lot of people that have already been in crypto, they've either been burned or jaded or kind of destroyed by tech coins, over promises, roadmaps, VC coins, etc. And there are still billions of people that have never even been in crypto, and the fact that um, they've decided like not to participate up until now, but something like this gets new people to join, that means there's something very powerful here from a mimetic standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy to see, and you see that more with like Instagram, YouTube, and that kind of thing than you and TikTok too, and then less on X. But some people are joining X and they're really getting into it, which is even better.
You
Um,
know the thing, you know the thing is you can have an asset which is like too schizo,
yeah,
and that way you're not gonna get like the masses. And the problem with that is you actually need the masses for parabolas because by definition the masses are like the majority, and you need a good chunk of those people for like crazy moves and future successes, right?
yeah,
But you can also have an asset that's like way too normie, but then there's like there's nothing
substance.
new
Yeah,
here, special. Yeah, exactly. And the ultimate winners are those that are going to combine both elements. You
yeah.
need those, you need the schizo foundations, but you also need the normie friendliness in order to capture both.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mung actually was talking about that on the spaces I joined. He was saying back then there were some people trying to turn it super 4chan, super super anime, super lewd and all that, but they enforced that. So if they didn't enforce that, I don't think it would have done very well.
I also like the whole, like, obviously, the I mean, I would argue that the world driven by the internet specifically is like increasingly more quote unquote degenerate. And this is like one of the other things I liked about SPX is that, there was a great article a couple years ago, which the title of which was "We Live in a World Without Counterculture." In the 70s and 80s, there were a bunch of these like countercultural movements, trends, subcultures, etc. But right now, the social media algorithms have pretty much like made everybody the same, and everybody
Yeah,
thinks in the same patterns, the same quotes, because essentially people are just shown whatever gets likes, which means that 95% of the people are consuming the same content and effectively becoming the same person. You know what I mean?
hmm,
And what I liked about, like, I obviously, over a long enough time frame, every like internet or digital product ends up succumbing to like a trend of pornification essentially.
mm,
And I liked SPX because it's like essentially anti-dopamine in many ways. It's like against this digital pornification of society, of community, and also the very fact that we're all about not just holding but belief, which is essentially like holding on steroids, and against short-term trading is like part and parcel of this, right? And we're essentially trying to do the opposite of what society wants you to do and of what the addiction driven like corporate slop wants you to do. And this is like essentially um, a a little green stem in a concrete world. And I really love that.
Yeah, and I think that's I've talked about this before. It get you kind of get your own algorithm when you're in the SPX cognosphere. This
One which is pure and more optimistic than the nihilism of doom
yeah.
scrolling, right?
Yeah, Aeon Reborn said that was his. He thought that was like the best utility because it keeps you staying positive. If you just listen to the broader crypto world, you might have sold, you might have done something stupid, and it just keeps you positive. So he was saying that's probably the best utility from
And it's essentially
SPX.
the SPX, like the SPX symbolism translated into simple language. It essentially means, hey guys, instead of trying to gamble in 5 days, let's build something that's 1,000 times bigger in 5 years. And we are essentially attracting people that resonate with that philosophy,
Yep.
which builds a very strong foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And I've noticed a lot of people have been. I think one reason why it resonates with some people is they've been rugged. They've been a part of shitty utility coins, and so it resonates with them. So
Absolutely. It takes it takes all the positive aspects about the meme coin super cycle and essentially like perfects them perfectly into a single asset.
yep. How long do you plan on supporting the community?
Um, Trillions at least 2030, potentially even more.
So you do plan on holding at least some forever? Is that the plan?
Until the flippening. Um, I mean, I think so. I think this is going much higher than anybody believes.
Yeah.
Um, my target is 1 trillion in the video that's pinned on my page. I think it could potentially go even higher. So I'm definitely going to be here until 2029, 2030 plus.
Yeah. And I think some people think, oh, what would we do without Murad? And I can understand that at this point it would be a big hit if you sold everything and just suddenly ghosted everybody. That would be a hit, obviously. But I know you're not going to do that. But what I'm saying is, if we continue to persist, and by 2029, there's going to be 10 people way bigger voice than you are. I think that's something people aren't quite grasping yet.
Well, to be frank, I've already noticed that my importance relative. So, people were voicing the same concern in September 2024
Yeah.
when I added SPX to the top of my list. And I straight up told them late September, early October, I said, as SPX grows bigger, my relative importance will like go down. You know what I mean? And it like let's say back in the day it was like 30%. Now it's already 15% in
Yep.
terms of like
Yep.
the voice loudness, right? And I'm already sensing that like compared to a year ago, SPX is much more autonomous with or without me. And a year from now, it's going to be even more. That's going to be even more the case. And I think eons in 2027, 2028, some of them won't even know who Murad is. And I
Exactly.
think that's a good thing. And I
Yep.
think that's a good
Hmm.
thing because ultimately, like, if you want something bigger than GME, then it's actually you need to build something that doesn't rely on a roaring kitty. So in
Exactly.
my view is that like if you generally want to build something gigantic over 2, 3 cycles, it actually is going to be stronger if it's decentralized.
Absolutely. Yeah, you remind me. Not saying you are just like this person, but it kind of reminds me of like Roger Ver back in the day. He was a big voice. I feel like a lot of people depended on him in a way. So you, but the point is, it evolves over time. Now there's more people, bigger
And the
people.
and the Bitcoiners of today don't even know who Ver is,
Right.
right?
Exactly. That's a good
But
example. Yeah.
Roger has done a lot for crypto. Back in the day, especially, he was between 2011 and 2015. He was one of the few people that was funding Bitcoin startups.
Right.
So definitely credit is where it's due. But the fact of the matter is, as a decentralized network grows, it becomes less dependent on any one single node.
Absolutely. Yep. Exactly. And we got evidence of that. That was yep. Um, what is a piece of feedback that you would give the SPX community, or something you would like to see, or something constructive?
Um, don't engage with the haters. Don't engage with like people that are essentially because SPX community is powerful, right? It's like top three community by numbers and number one community by emotional intensity, you know? And we're only going to continue growing parabolically. So a lot of people are essentially what they're going to be doing is they're going to be deliberately trying to say things that are going to trigger you or make you either super angry or super happy. But really, they're just trying to get engagement from the massive SPX community to grow their Twitter page, brand, whatever it might be. And especially if something is like dark or negative, um, if you engage with it, you actually amplify their reach. Because whenever you engage with it, now that gets shown to all the eons. Now other eons look
Yeah.
at it. Now that gets shown to other eons. And essentially, it's their attempt to ride off of the wave of your emotions. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm liking, tweet, quote, retweeting, and commenting and rating things that I like, and simply just scrolling past the things that aren't, because it's just like the neural cells. They are gonna grow stronger if you keep like stimulating them, and they're gonna die if you don't stimulate them, right? So essentially, Baprol is the one who taught me this. Essentially, don't engage with like slow. Don't engage with the hate. Don't engage with the trigger stuff, and engage with the positive, uplifting, uniting things.
Yep. Yep. And if you are going to engage with it, I would say do it in a loving way. If that's
Absolutely.
so,
Absolutely.
if you are going to,
You
which is
know,
hard to do, so you're probably better off just avoiding
yeah,
it.
I
But
mean, kill them with love is definitely one of the uh, commandments, so to speak, of the SPX community. The other thing I would say is what we already alluded to earlier, is find ways in which you specifically can um, promote SPX in like a different way, in a unique way, something that is like special to you. And if you don't think there is such a way, then just go super hard on, I would say, like Reddit, TikTok, YouTube,
yeah,
because we're already going hard on Twitter. It's very important that we go hard on other social media as well, because just like how we've diversified across blockchains, with like ETH, Sol, Sui, etc. Base, we also need to diversify our presence across social media networks as well, just in the same way.
yeah, I 100% second that. I don't. Have you just speaking of unique? Have you seen? There's a couple examples that I thought was super unique. Tori, I think is their name. They do like martial arts every single day, and then
Yes.
that's so cool. And
Yeah.
can't remember their name, but he claims to be. He said Hare Krishna is living inside of him. He's a vessel for. Oh my God, that guy. Of that. Oh, dude, his videos are amazing.
So what I really like about SPX as a spiritual movement is that it doesn't replace existing like religions or teachings, but it's like an add-on. And we've seen people from a bunch of different religious backgrounds join because they can sense the purity in the people. They can sense that we are like more long-termist than the extreme short-term zeitgeist of today's crypto. Like, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn or kind of just pat our community on the back incessantly, but I genuinely believe that like the average SPX person is like kinder and warmer than average crypto or average internet person, right? And I think
Yeah.
people are sensing this through the art, through the videos, especially through the posting, and they want to be a part of something like this.
Okay. Absolutely. Here's another question that I got asked to ask you, and I was kind of curious too. Is there any chance? I know you have a lot of SPX, clearly. Is there any chance that you would start participating in the DCA culture, even if it's just a little bit, just to? Because honestly, it would kill a lot of the FUD. It would be fucking hilarious to be like, "Oh, he's gonna sell." No, he's actually buying. Just a thought. Would any chance you participate in that?
Definitely something that I am considering. Um, Considering when and how to do it, but definitely something in the back of my mind. So we will definitely something to explore. Yeah.
Yeah, not trying to put you on the spot. I know that's a sensitive kind of topic, but just a
Yeah, for
thought.
sure. I saw the list of questions that they gave you on Twitter, and a lot of them was like, "Oh, like why not when Coinbase? Why not
Yeah,
Coinbase?"
I
And then
ignored those.
2 days later we had Coinbase. So
Yeah, that
you
was
gotta
funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta believe, and good things will happen.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I don't think Murad's gonna 100% know when that shit happens. But anyways, how close are we to critical mass?
Um, I think pretty close. I think pretty
I feel
close.
like we're already. You define it. I think some people think critical mass means we're at 100 billion. I think some people think that, but I feel like we're kind of already there. The way you defined it in your I'm gonna call it an opus, your hour and a half opus, whatever you want to call it, epic video. You defined it as whenever becomes like a perpetual machine almost. At least that's how I interpreted what you said. And I feel like
Yeah,
we're
for
already
sure.
there, but that's
I
me.
mean, I feel like we're already there as well.
Yeah,
Some people look at this as a price thing.
yeah,
I actually think it's more of a people thing.
yeah,
We have like 208,000 holders or whatever. But really, I think like the key to critical mass is having um it's not about the holders. Some people are like, oh, you need like a 200,000 holders, 300,000 holders, whatever.
right.
I think it's about getting like 5,000 holders that care a lot. You know what I mean? And like those, because like those are the guys who are disproportionately gonna move the needle. And I think like we're either there or like super close.
Yeah, I think it's just if we're not there, I mean, it's it's going to get there, so it might as well be there. So
I think it's a matter of time because, and also the biggest bullish thing is that 99.999% of people like haven't heard about this yet. Um, and I think they will, or I think a good chunk of them will. And I think that means like all the crazy bullish things, they're like yet to come.
hell yeah, yeah, I agree. It's going to be fun, I think, over the next. Well, that's a question too. Where do you think we'll be by GTA 6? I know that's something you were memeing. The SPX movement in particular.
I've said this on a bunch of podcasts. I think 100 billion this cycle, 1 trillion next cycle.
Now that does. I had another question. Again, I think this is sensitive, but I'm going to ask as folks asked. I know you've said you're at one point you said you're planning on selling half Q4 2025, but that was a while ago. I think a lot of macro stuff has happened. Are you looking for a certain price to sell some, or are you looking at more like a time frame? What you think will be the macro top? Is that kind of how you're thinking about it?
I'm still deciding. I'm playing it by ear. Maybe I won't even sell any this cycle. Maybe I'll sell a little bit. We'll see. Um,
And by the way, I think you
but
should. I mean, I think it's people holding you to a standard you can't sell. That's ridiculous. So
yeah, yeah, we'll see. I'm still deciding. The majority of my holdings, I'm gonna wait until 1 trillion plus. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
yeah,
Still observing. Still deciding. Um, there's even a possibility that I don't sell any this cycle. So we'll see how it plays out.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Um, Here's another one. So I know you used to be, at least I think, a Bitcoin Maxi. Is that true?
I still am as far as money coins are concerned.
Cool, cool, cool. So how do you square that thesis with your SPX6900 thesis, meme coin thesis broadly, when many claim that Bitcoin is the only store of value? Many Bitcoin maxis claim that. So I assume you disagree with that. So how do you kind of square those two?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Bitcoin maxi as far as like store of value, medium of exchange coins are concerned, as far as like gold replacers are concerned. But the fact that Bitcoin is going to be like the only thing, they've been saying that since 2013. That's obviously not true. We have more coins than ever before. I also think this is like a not a 1 day thing, right? This is probably going to like it will be until at least 265 for the whole world to move on chain. And that process, not only is it going to be lengthy, but there's going to be hundreds of, you know, not hundreds, like millions of coins more.
Yeah,
There's going to
yeah,
be different kinds of projects. There's going to be, cash flow coins. There's going to be movement coins. There's going to be, these like on-chain spiritual movements. There's going to be all of these sorts of things. Um, it's going to be a whole, big bang explosion of things. So while I do believe that between now and like call it 2050, BTC is going to be by far the biggest winner of like the neo gold category, there's also going to be a dozens of other categories. So I think that's, if you've been in crypto for the past 10 years, it's pretty obvious to see where this is going.
Yeah. Are you along those same lines? I've seen some maxis recently coming out and frankly being kind of hateful towards you. And I mean, there's been a lot of hate towards you this whole cycle. Like even before the list, before SVU, because you just came out and said stuff about meme coins. I remember. Are you surprised by that, or do you have what's your take on that? I guess I'm just kind of curious your perspective.
The more hate, the better, and I'll tell you why.
I like that.
Because
Okay.
like, so you know when you fold a page and the two opposite ends touch, that's the way I see it. The worst thing is actually not hate. Hate is actually, I would argue it's like the second best thing. Um, the worst hate is apathy,
Yeah.
when people don't even care. You know what I mean? That's the worst. Hate is actually the second best thing because it's second best thing after like love or obsession in this case with a crypto asset, crypto community. That means the emotion is there. That means that social engagement is there. That means that, so whenever anybody hates in a particularly intense fashion, that always strengthens the SPX community. When Raul Pal jokingly said persist forever, that persist forever became a huge motto of our community. When Fred Krueger was making fun of us, there was like 1,000 eons kind of converging, rating him incessantly. I wouldn't be surprised if to see a lot of these haters become like supporters or lovers later on. We've already been seeing that. I think Raul Paul affiliated, newsletter have
Yeah.
already been talking about SPX in their portfolio or whatever. I
They've
don't,
been
I don't know what happened.
they've
Yeah,
recommended it.
exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, they recommended it. So, you can love or hate, but you cannot deny the emotional passion here.
Yeah.
As for me personally, hate just tells me that I'm doing something right because in crypto, the worst thing is apathy. Love or hate, they're essentially very close to one another, So hate means either people don't like how fast you're rising, people don't like how intense your community is, people don't like what's happening here, but essentially what this truly means is that you're succeeding. That's what it truly means. And which is essentially a bullish signal. The other thing is if people hate you, that means you're still early because they're yet to be converted to love. And the amount of people that were hating on Bitcoin and now the most ardent Bitcoin supporters, I mean, I've been in BTC since 2013 and more actively since 2016, and I've seen this story play out 1,000 times.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's so many. Sailor famously said something in 2013. Oh, it's going to zero. It's a gambling coin or
Yep,
something like that.
exactly.
And he's the
Yeah,
biggest
Sailor's
supporter
like
now.
Sailor is like the greatest example, but there's like
Yeah.
countless others as well.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Definitely. Some have not turned that. Some people still blame it. Some people still don't see it. Some people blame others. That's another
Well,
thing. Yeah.
but also, like Peter Schiff or Paul
Yeah.
Krugman or whoever that
Hmm.
make fun of BTC, like their tweets also bring disproportionately huge amounts of attention to BTC. So, this is the thing. Like, this is what I mean by apathy is bad, but hate is very good.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it's good. Any publicity is good publicity if you treat it correctly.
For sure, for sure.
Do you think your past self, like maybe your 2015, 2016 self, would be surprised what you're doing now, like your involvement in SPX 6900? What do you think your past self would say to yourself now? Like, what? What do you think?
Um, you know, Maybe in some ways, but also not, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm already mentally prepared that in 2000 like 35, I'll be like supporting some crazy niche thing again or whatever. And here's the thing, right? In order to succeed in this world, you need to do things that in order to succeed in like 1,000x, 10,000x, 100,000x type manner, you necessarily need to do like something crazy. You necessarily need to do something that's like delusional. You need to necessarily do something that's like goes completely off the beaten path. And essentially, you need to think outside of the box. You need to be extremely open-minded. Um, that's why I'm not that's why I'm not surprised, because essentially, if you want to succeed in like a parabolic fashion, you almost need to do something that's like, people will say, oh, like that's like cuckoo or whatever, that's like insane.
Hmm.
But if you actually want to be like visionary, you essentially need to go out of your way to seek out the crazy things, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And so um, the fastest growing things, they almost need to start off as crazy. They almost need to start off as delusional, right? Because people thinking that something's crazy is delusional, that's the fuel that actually gives it the power to rise parabolically. Like that disbelief, that seed, that hate that we've already discussed. Um, you almost need that, right? And so the other important aspect is that something needs to be new and something needs to be not attempted before. I think that's like something needs to be innovative. And I think SPX is definitely is that culturally. And that's why I still think we still have so much more room for growth. But, honestly, I'm not surprised, because at the end of the day, I'll tell you why. You know, a lot of very smart people in crypto, they're like, oh, like Aave should be trading above XRP or whatever, right?
yeah,
Because if you're like a rationally minded person, it should, right?
yeah.
And for like a decade, I was thinking the same, like I was thinking in a similar way. But I'll tell you what was my core realization of 2023 and why I kind of like pivoted to meme coins and especially became a big believer in SPX. The core insight is, and essentially, first you need to make a list of the biggest winners in crypto. Call it like BTC, ETH, XRP, Cardano, etc. Right? Doge. Um, then you ask yourself, what do they have in common? Because at the surface, they're completely different. A couple of them are trying to be money. Another one is like just a dog, right? With like a funny community. The others are like trying to build utility, quote unquote. Um, so what do these things have in common? And ultimately, you realize that every crypto asset that has ever existed is first and foremost a community. And so ultimately, it boils down to the people, how motivated they are, how spiritually charged they are, how much quote unquote free cult labor they're providing. And essentially, these coins, they are tokenized communities. You can even extend this further and describe some of these coins as spiritual movements, on-chain decentralized quasi-religions. You can definitely see this with BTC. A lot of anthropologists have already been studying it from that lens. And ultimately, regardless of what lens you look at it from, it boils down to the people, the growth of the people, and the intensity of the belief of the average person. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, if something is a tech coin or a meme coin. What matters is the people and their belief. And that was my insight in 2023. And that's essentially why XRP is stronger than a lot
Hmm.
of coins with, frankly, more utility. Um, and once you realize this, like your game, in my mind, in like 2023, my game was, okay, how do I find the next XRP, next Doge, next GME, etc. And I think it boiled down to the mission. And that's why I love SPX so much, because I think it has the most ambitious mission.
Yeah,
Um, since BTC, since GME, essentially, right? And that's why I think it's going to trillions.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah. So it's not like maybe your past self will say what might be like, oh, that's very different, but it wouldn't be totally surprising because you're always seeking different things even then. So
Absolutely. And if your quote unquote desire as an investor, as a crypto participant, is to find the next quote unquote Doge, the next XRP, the next BTC, you have to combine the strongest theme of the cycle with the strongest coin within that theme. And essentially, the winners in crypto, they're like almost always like winner take all, winner take most, and they win disproportionately. Whether it's BTC with money, whether it was Axie back in the day with GameFi, whether it's Ethereum with smart contracts, whatever you want to call it. You want to identify the strongest theme of the cycle, and then you want to bet on the winners of like the strongest coins of that theme. And I think SPX is that. And also, if you want to be a part of something that's going to be multi-cycle, again, just like BTC was, just like XRP was, just like Doge was in many ways, you need that intense mission, intense loyalty. And whether it's on chain or more subjectively through the art, I'm seeing that with SPX 6900 the most.
Yeah, yeah, and I previously to getting involved, and to give you kudos, I 100% was like, oh, Murad mentioned it, I'm gonna buy some, just purely that at the beginning, and I was very heavily involved in meme coins as well that throughout 2024. It's built different. It is different, and people really need to look into it more. It's not about the memetics. I mean, it is to a degree. I do agree. There's something special about. If it wasn't the way it was, there would be an issue. Like if it was just a dog coin, they wouldn't be able to get that kind of mission. However, I think some people look at it as like the meme or how you can meme or the memetics as a moat, and it's not a moat. Like I could make a dog meme with SPX. I could make SPX any kind of meme. That doesn't mean anything.
In my mind, I would say it's like 30% memetics, 70% people.
Yeah,
And
good,
it's like it's the people that are the real moat.
yes, exactly, and it's so strong now. You really, if you're into meme coins, do yourself a favor and actually dig into it because it's built different. To sort of say to the viewers.
There's been so many coins in the last year that have like came and went. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And what sets SPX away from the pack is we have a critical mass of people that, regardless of what's going on in crypto, we're just gonna stay loyal to. We're just gonna stay loyal to our cause, to our coin. You know what I mean?
yep.
And so we disproportionately have these like long-termist, diamond-handed, and loyal, which is like the perfect combination. And I think we're going to continue, even with the retail that is yet to come, we're going to continue, even among those demographics, we're going to continue disproportionately attracting those people. And so I think we're going to see a parabola this cycle, and I think we're going to see a parabola next cycle as well. And that's what I'm preparing for.
Yeah, I have two more questions. How bullish are you? I know it's a stupid question, but I like to ask it.
Super bullish, incredibly so. The total addressable market of this, the total addressable market of this isn't just crypto; it's spirituality itself. Um, a lot of people around the world, they have a spiritual void for one reason or another, a growing one, and the things that can even partially fill that void are going to be gigantic things. And especially if they have an asset attached to them, they're going to be gigantic assets. So I'm super bullish. Um, and I still think it's like early days, essentially.
Yep, yep. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave to the group?
Don't just hold, but evangelize and think about the things that you can uniquely contribute that others can't. DCA, persist forever, and just consistency beats intensity. Show up every day and dream bigger because this can be much bigger than anybody thinks.
Yep, yep. That just to add to that, that's something Matt Beck was saying. It's like we have the opportunity to not just be like, oh, let's try to get a pump or whatever. Which I think most people aren't in it for that. But we have opportunity to make it like a true crypto asset, like a true like what the original vision of crypto, so to speak.
Yeah. Matt Beck talked about how we can make it like a definitional hold asset.
Yes,
And
that's
I'm
yep,
I'm a strong believer in that for sure.
yep, yeah. That's the goal, folks. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It was awesome talking to you. I think some people, the people who hate Murad's not the way you have in your brain. You need to look into Murad a little bit more. I don't think people doing that, and you also need to look into SPX more and give it a shot. And I think you'll like what you see if you're open to it. So, yep, you're awesome, and I can't wait to see where all this goes. I appreciate the videos. They're really, really well done. Everybody loves them, and I want to encourage you to keep going. And I'm sure you are, anyways. I know everyone will be excited to hear your thoughts, and if you're still listening, I appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. There will be links to all of Murad's socials. I'm sure you already are following, but if you don't, please give him a follow. Until next time, persist forever, Aeons.